improve conferences, build on what's already there, and think about what is the way we're going to get the most out of the time we have together when we come together in those large meetings. So right now, my desktop should be shared with everybody. I'll go over just the format of this webinar so people have an idea of what all is going to happen. Questions, you can put the chat bar is probably where most of us are going to look. Look up right now to the top of your sort of desk. You should see a green button, and you can navigate that and hit the chat button up, and you'll be able to pop a window so you can chat with us as we go. The tech community, really quick, is just a group of people in NCSS who are really passionate about digital tools, about sharing digital tools, connecting over them, and thinking about how they are impacting our field and how they are also impacting the way we act as a council. We look to the NCSS position statement on technology to take action in our classrooms and in our communities on the state and federal level, and we've grown in the past couple of years to be a little more visible at the conference and otherwise. So this is an example of how we're trying to reach out to everyone on the council and get their ideas and spread them around. So there are of us who are pretty active in the community, and there are the people presenting tonight. They are listed here. We have Kim Gilman from Kansas, Alexander Ledford from Florida, Brian Bard from Kansas as well. Joshua Patterson is going to jump on later, but he helped prepare one of the presentations for today. It's from upstate New York. Meredith Lewis is from out in California, and my name is Nick Lawrence. I am in New York City. So these are the people who are going to bring up a few things to think about as we move through the webinar. And if you have any questions again, the big key, the thing that we're really looking at is to use that chat function to respond to the ideas that we're presenting. So the format today is going to be 7 big ideas, 7 minutes apiece. You'll hear a pretty quick pitch from one of us, one of the people that was just listed. We'll say, here's the idea that we gathered from conversations, the SS chat, the Twitter chat on January 4th, and a variety of other places. Now let's think about how is this implementable? How are we going to bring this to NCSS and otherwise? So that should only take 1 or 2 minutes to talk about, and then we're going to sort of give that 7 minutes over to the conversation. We'd love it if you could post questions, post links, post your idea, say whether it's a good or bad idea, say if you know where people are sort of implementing this idea, connect us to that, and at the end, we're going to try to prioritize these things. There's a attached to the webinar resources that sort of shows, again, how to go up to the green button at the top of your WebEx panel, and there's a chat button, and that should pop out a box so you can see what people are both presenting and as well as act in the conversation. So in that conversation is what we're really hoping to go and develop this evening. So without further ado, I think that right now what we're waiting on is first presenter. We're going to try to get her on and troubleshoot that. But since Kim is going to be on in just a minute, we're going to move quickly to the topic of community endorsements. So I hand over that fancy beach ball to Alex. She's going to get started.
Alexander Ledford, and I just wanted to talk to you guys about the idea that we have of making community endorsements for the tech community. This will be kind of a seal of approval of the tech community. Everybody is always fascinated with technology and its applications in the classroom and for assessment, and that's why you guys are here tonight. So we would kind of do the legwork for you guys, going through the program, seeing the presentations ahead of time that people might have prepared who would want to participate in this. And as we work on coming up with a logo for our tech community, one of the ideas that we were going to talk tonight about is going paperless and using QR codes to do that. So we come up with a kind of image, a little seal, as it were, to include on these presentations or possibly in the program to help identify which presentations have a more technology focus. Whether it be a new technology that's emerging, an assessment tool, or a presentation about how a practitioner has integrated that into their practice. Elements of this is that over time we may be able to identify key presentations that we would be able to record and archive digitally and put there in sort of a community exemplars. That's kind of about also, encouraging people to attend these particular presentations on technology, we could build a stronger sense of community within the tech community itself. Kind of our big brothers, the site community, do. They make sure that when somebody from the community is presenting, that they have presentation in the audience of the site community. This would be a good way to do that for the tech community as well. Questions, concerns?
For just the next couple of minutes to the chat function to see what people think would be a way to potentially push this forward. How could this apply to other communities? And we're going to get on to the next topic in about 5 minutes.
Sir, what we mean is this would be more of endorsement by the tech community for particular presentations. So we wouldn't want to go so far as to say, all right, well, Google Chrome is the very best web browser every teacher should use. Google Chrome web browser, there are no web browsers before it. This would be something to help identify, go to a restaurant, like I know there's a Grillsmith, and they have little symbol next to items on the menu for like gluten-free, spicy, healthier options. That would be kind of something that we were hoping to identify within the program, presentations that are based on instructional technologies. Rosa, it would take some work in order to comb through all the presentations that are going to be offered at NCSS, and that would be kind of an undertaking a few of us here in the tech community would do. In terms of the sharing, we're hoping to be able to have some sort of identifiable element within the program, maybe on the signs displaying where things, with presentations are going to be, but also a big part of the tech community is our social media presence. We're hoping that through Twitter and Facebook and maybe Earpod, we can use these technologies to disseminate to the people who follow us, what missions are, what they're about, when they'll be taking place. Joe, that is a great question. We have not formally decided which criteria to use. If you have any suggestions for that, we're totally open. That's one of the purposes here in the webinar. David, into that. Thank you, Rosella. Claire.
So in the interest of time, I think we're going to move on to the next topic. Thanks, Alex. If you want to continue to submit ideas on that one, we're also looking into making sure that the chat goes totally public between all the attendees, but we're going to ask the microphone to be passed off to Kim Gillen. If you could do that, that would be great. Need to turn mic.
Okay.
Yes, you can.
Yes.
There we go.
Yes. I'm on both, so. Can I share my screen? The first I've heard, so are we at,
Yes, you said that.
can you see me?
Yes.
Looking at something that says sustainable conferencing, yes?
Yes.
Okay, so great. Kim Gilman, and I was tasked with looking into sustainability using technology. I threw in some other stuff outside of technology, so we can, if we get to the top for that, that's great. If not, we'll stick to technology. This is an overview talking about not just the next conference, but future conferences, asking that they be more sustainable through use of technology, communications with attendees, vendors, etc., and best practices for the conference itself. I thought we'd start maybe with what is already happening. There is an app, of course, for the conference guide. There is online registration. Those are all excellent things. Are there any feedback that we could get? And are we collecting information from participants in a document, or are we just using the chat box? Can you see?
the chat box function here.
Okay, great. So if you have used the app, online registration, if there's any feedback on that, how it could be improved, if there is a way to garner support for that. I know last year there were maybe some people were struggling to either download it or to get it to work. Some that might have been connectivity with the venue. So it's already happening. And then I was part of a conference that offered the option for attendees to pre-select the sessions they thought they would go to. And then there was a little profile for the attendee and the presenter, and you could connect through this, and I know what it was. It was through the National Conference for Geography Education. And it was pretty neat because you had this pre-conference opportunity to send materials, to get information, to really target your audience who were pre-selecting to come to yours. I don't know if that's something that could be added on or if it has any, has seen that type of thing take place in a different conference that we could look into. And then another thing might be to, instead of using the paper program or putting less paper programs, maybe place kiosks or screens throughout the venue that offer opportunities to find where sessions are so you don't have to be carrying the program. Lots of people do those, a lot of those end up in the recycling, but probably a lot in the trash as well. And these topics under just going paperless, using technology to do that. Another system, I know if I'm going too quickly, I can only see my screen at the moment, so if someone to shout out and let me know. That we talked about at the last conference was the opportunity to have in the exhibitor hall, they can zap the barcodes that are in place in the badge system. There was a possibility for QR codes or something that allowed you to have your contact information that you wanted to share. Wouldn't have to have the special device that they use in the exhibit hall. Perhaps if there was something that was QR, anyone who had a phone or a device could use it, and it would be sort of grassroots way unless we could get NCSS to buy into it and find a technology that we could all use. Be a way for us to collect that information and store that information and share our contact information without having to try to keep up with business cards. And then with going paperless, maybe there's a way to conference, encourage presenters to use more paperless options. We had a webinar summer that offered those steps on how to help presenters do that, maybe another webinar, or maybe there are some other ways that we haven't thought of to encourage presenters to use sharing options that might lead to paperless presentations. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. And so people in the chat, if you can just add feedback on the app, the options you've seen at other conferences, possibly kiosks or screens, QR system, and presenters. Those are all topics. Going paperless, there are opportunities here because we're all traveling to the conference, perhaps for our carbon emissions. Something that the NCSS already does is locate hotel blocks within walking distance, so there's a lot of people who are able to walk, and selecting cities with public transit. Perhaps there are some other opportunities that through technology attendees could offset their emissions. There could be opportunities provided for that. There's some way to help encourage public transit. Maybe there are better discounts, or maybe there's some way to, maybe there's maybe sending out the app for that public transit so that it makes it easier for attendees to use the public transit. Offering reminders or opportunities at registration to offset emissions through that online registration, maybe like a click box that could use, and then be even offering side-by-side comparisons of individual and full conference footprints. So what would it look like to do these things, and then what is your carbon footprint at this conference? And CSS, maybe complete environmental evaluation, carbon footprint of the conference, get interested in moving forward with sustainable conferencing. Perhaps generate some ideas about how best to do this and what might be possible for the 2016 conference. It's so close. And then gearing up for future conferences down the road with these larger issues. Here, kind of get away from technology, but there's other opportunities, of course, through food service, recycling, particularly for recycling for vendors with all the materials that they may have left at the end of the conference, or materials they may have used to set up. One technological use would be to help vendors become more technological instead of having all those materials. If then perhaps there's a way that a partner could be found to come in and take those materials away at the end of conference, so they won't just be in the trash. And then very small general things like lanyards, recycled paper, water stations. Again, we'd have to let attendees know that these things were going to be offered. And I'm sure plenty of other ideas about ways to recycle, reuse, and reduce at our conference. Just wanted to leave off with these questions. What green tech initiatives have you seen at other face-to-face conferences? What, as I mentioned, to suggest for 2016, our upcoming conference? What others could technology be used to NCSS in general? Could our community partner with the sustainability and maybe other communities on this issue? And have a website at the bottom of this. I don't know if it's interactive for you. If not, I'll put it in. It's in the doc. I got a lot of information about how to green a conference from that website.
Tim, we're going to keep moving just so we move through. If you have other ideas on this idea of a sustainable conference, you should definitely continue to post them. I saw a lot of pretty awesome links to what other people are doing, so that is exactly what we're looking for. I'm going to ask Ed to pass the Shiny Beach ball over to Brian, who's going to talk about tech lounges and awesome things.
My name is Brian Bouchard. I am in the Kansas City area, and I'm going to just share some information about something that I'm excited, or I think would be very beneficial to have at our next NCSS conference, if we could. And that's having a tech lounge available for attendees to access. So first, I'm just going to talk about a couple things, like why should we have a tech lounge? A lot of our sessions and the hour-long sessions that people attend at NCSS, it's still mainly a sit-and-get conference. You get information from people, but there is not as much time to, especially if you get technology. If you get technology, you might not have a chance to play with it until after the conference, and a lot of times you may not be able to, remember key ideas that you got while you were, fresh in your mind from a presentation. Sometimes there's not a lot of time to interact with presenters. So sessions are getting ready to start. A lot of times, we're kind of forced out as it's 10 minutes between sessions. Presenters, attendees are kind of getting forced out into and then, there's really no place for them to go if people want to talk more. And then if you do get going once you're back home and you start playing with something, it's hard to pick up that line of communication again, to talk to a presenter that's already not still at the conference. Tech Lounge, we would try to get something in an open place, easily accessible. We wouldn't want to have this in a closed-off room. Thinking back to New Orleans, there were big open spaces near the registration desks. There was big open spaces by the main presentation hall where the keynotes were, the Hall of Delegates. We tried to find open space like that people could be accessed. It would really not be hard for people to find. And we had an NCSS tech table last year set up kind of as people went up to the post presentations, and it's very easy to use a big space right next to us. So what's happening there? This is some of the ideas we've come up with. We would let prisoners know that this space would be available if they want to have more time. People are interested in talking to them about the technology that they showcased at a presentation. They would be free to bring people down to this lounge and just kind of continue, let them play with the technology, answer questions. It would be whatever would be necessary for the presentation. And if the presenter is not going down there, we allow for space for people. If they heard about something, go down there and play with it. And we have members of our tech community. We had our table staffed very consistently in New Orleans. So we would try to do the same thing in DC and have the members of the tech community nearby to help with any tech questions. And if people are hearing about this new technology, it'll just grow. Members of the community will probably want to play well and help out. And then we're having many tech sessions at this lounge throughout the day. So have a schedule where at 9:30 there's someone at this tech lounge talking about app. It can be or any sort of website app technology that's really relevant in the social studies classroom. So these are some of the ideas we've come up with. I think it would be well worth it to have a space like this at the conference. I'll just leave you with a couple questions for the chat. I see some people who have put, but would you want to have this space made available at a future conference? And then, besides some of the stuff that I've listed out, what else would you like to see provided at a lounge like this? And I see some of you are going into the that were already in there. We have taught that a little bit, and I think that would be to get SHIP. I think would help with the general and allow us to provide more to participants. That would be interesting to see, what people want to know about, and then try to, maybe a Twitter chat later on about. I think Rosella, you say there can be spaces set aside, but they have to be advertised in advance. I think we should try to have let them know that we're here as a tech community. I think hopefully people saw us a little bit in New Orleans at the tech table, and we were pretty active on Twitter throughout the conference, and I think if we continue that and make it in a very big open space, I think it will be hopefully able for people to come see us. Susan, you asked for suggested locations. I think the exhibit hall would be a little hectic. I think a little hard for people to. I'm thinking of more just kind of open, common spaces at conference centers. In New Orleans, they had just that big open hall almost right in front of where the House of Delegates met. It was in between where the keynotes were and registration desk. I'm thinking more spaces like that out in the open where it should be easy for people to see us if we size those spots.
I think that in the interest of time, we need to move to the next topic since we're doing this sort of rapid fire format. There are tons of really good ideas that came out of that particular topic. If you have any more about that topic, you should definitely continue to post them, link to them, ask questions, pass the baton on to, or back to Alex, who is sort of presenting with Josh about a pre-service teacher piece.
Thanks, me again. So I've put together some pretty good stuff on strengthening the pre-service teacher experience, and I'm going to fill in for him since he was unable to make it. So what Josh and I noticed when we attended our local FCSS, Florida Council for Social Studies, is it was much more of a practitioner and pre-service teacher vibe than national conference, which is more all-encompassing. So what we want to do is try to introduce some ways, especially through the use of technology, to strengthen the pre-service experience there at the conference itself, but also to build a bridge to those pre-service teachers who aren't able to make it. So when I was a pre-service teacher, if somebody had said, hey, you want to travel halfway across the country to a conference, I said, absolutely no way. I would have to sell all of my ramen noodles and probably my car in order to just get there. So that we want to do that is to integrate a software and provide you guys with a link, an example of that. Where we want to integrate a networking tool that would connect pre-service teachers with more experienced teachers, pre-teachers and new teachers, because it's just as important to help out our new teachers as well. By using this video analysis software, pre-service teachers could upload recordings of themselves. You can do web conferencing like we're doing here, and we can sort of pair them together with experienced teachers who can give them feedback on the work that they're doing. We can foster collaboration between these groups, and we can also create a sense of support for our social studies teachers, no matter what level of experience that they have. It also connects to something that we've been banging about is a virtual attendance option for the conference. I know that if SS is on the opposite coast of the country, I'm going to be much less inclined to make a flight all the way out there, and that is certainly a detractor for our pre-service teachers. So this could be a good cost-saving measure for all attendees of the conference. With video uploads that we're doing with this network, we can kind of build a repository of exemplars that are out there already and gear them towards the presentations that we're going to have here at NCSS. On our chat. Yeah, well, the virtual attendance idea is one that has come up in, I think, every conversation I've had about technology at the conferences. Even if we don't have a separate paid virtual attendance option to NCSS, if we were able to integrate more recording of sessions, more collection of materials, and then the creation of an online repository or database for these things that could be a good way to bolster virtual attendance. I think that would be a great idea. Basically creating a viral marketing campaign geared towards the pre-service teachers, kind of a sneak peek of the conference. I think there's enough stock footage of NCSS, and I've got some recordings myself from NCSS. We can kind of put together an introduction to what pre-service teachers could expect at the conferences. Here at USF in Tampa, we really push our pre-service teachers, our MAT students, doctoral students. Conference attendance is a real big for us, so that would really go a long way to that burden off of the faculty here. Yeah.
So I think that in the interest of time, it's really great stuff, folks. We're going to move on to the next topic, so we get through them in close to under an hour. The next one will be back to Ed for a bit on gaining access to every session at a national conference.
All right, Ed Finney. I teach middle school in Schodack, New York, which is just outside of Wilmington. Luckily, know last week that snowed so much down in the city. About is gaining access to every and I'm kind of solving a good problem. And focus on utilizing the guidebook app and the recorded sessions. And it's a great problem. And the problem is there's hundreds and hundreds of awesome sessions. NCSS, I think at the 2 o'clock session last year, there's over 80 sessions going on at once with poster presentations, clinics, presenters. Not everyone here could attend all those sessions. And the real choose, and walking down the hall, pulling my hair out because I have 7 sessions I would like to attend, because again, great session, which is a great problem that NCSS has, is that there are many awesome sessions to go to, and now I'm down in the session waiting for it to start, and did I make the right choice? I'm pulling out my app, I'm looking at the program, trying to decide. We rely right now on the descriptions found in the program and on the guidebook app to the sessions that best suits our needs and interest. That can be tough because the brief descriptions that are found in the apps are really and one from what this is really about. Sometimes the session is geared for a little bit of an older age group or a little bit of a younger age group. I'm a middle school teacher, and I always seem to be walking into sessions that might be more towards elementary end or more the upper level. And the rule would be utilizing the guidebook app. The guide app has a feature for it where you upload all the session resources. Make a copy of the digital presentation, the present site, maybe the Twitter handle. Handouts can be added to the guidebook app, and resources will give the attendees valuable information to make an informed choice. I know last year, kind of waiting a day for the guidebook app to be updated, so I actually go in and start going through and making my choices and selections for the SS in New Orleans. I know sessions especially, there may be 6 or 7 sessions I want to attend. I know I'm not the only one that falls into that same category. It'd be to have additional resources to look at. Even something simple as a website or Twitter handle. You get a better feel on what the presenter is going to be about. And again, is it geared toward your interest? digital presentation ahead of time. The presenter is a little reluctant to turn it in a teaser presentation. Again, there's a little bit more information on what that presentation is going to be about. And I think only help to make the experience good for the attendee and for the presenter by having the room filled with the people that want to be there. On the guidebook app, as I was researching this more and talking about it with the NCSS team this week, there's a next feature. This new level of networking to the NCSS conference. I just found this just recently. I was going through. There is a user login account that allows attendees to connect with other attendees and vendors. And it's a pretty interesting piece. I haven't watched it in person, but sitting in a session, you can connect with somebody else in a room using a guidebook app. You can send them a digital business card. You check into an event or a session, and this allows others to connect and with you. One of the biggest things I enjoy, or the greatest benefits I get from going to these conferences, is just networking with awesome, educators from around the country. Brian Shard and myself, the first time we met was at NCSS, and we started Schoology chat, where every Friday our students watch a CNN student newsroom together, in time, and they comment to each other using Schoology. And that's just one benefit that we got from meeting each other and networking at the conference. You can search for attendees by name, company, or even their position. So I'm not sure to what detail, but it would be great if you search people by their, from school, high school. Also, I know with the thousands of people that are there, we all know people that go and you never run into them. Maybe there's other reasons for that, called burglary. All right. There's a private message feature that will allow attendees to connect and collaborate with the members, with other people as well. So the Guide app is a great resource, and a resource that can be hopefully utilized greater by adding in the additional presenter resources and opening up this back channel and networking features that will allow attendees to connect with people while they're there. The other is an expanded library. I know NCSS currently has 18 sessions from the 2015 conference. These are 18 recorded sessions, and it's great to see that they're there. I think that the issue is they were just released a couple of weeks ago. It's nice that we have them as a resource. I actually didn't know they were there until recently, and I went through listening to some from Boston, and they're a good resource. But they're 2 months after the conference, and that's also like a month and a half after a lot of the momentum and excitement from the conference has kind of died down. It would be nice if there was an expanded learning center housing all the completed sessions, offering the recorded presentations or the digital presentations with an audio file and set resources. I mean, done as something as simply as the way we're recording our webinar today. Everything we're saying is being recorded, and then that's to be uploaded to site or even uploaded back to Guidebook, and Guidebook can be used again as a resource afterwards. To view these missed sessions, your favorite sessions, and highlights with colleagues in your school and district would add value to the conference. Myself and my district, is very difficult to get the funding to travel to NCSS, and I've made it to 6 of them so far, so I'm very fortunate for that. But a lot of times it's on, at my own expense. But if I have opportunity to be able to bring back these sessions or have access to recorded sessions, and then within my district or faculty meetings, department meetings, that would be, a great opportunity to talk about. And again, solving a good problem, and there are so many great presentations going on at NCSS. So I'll hit the chat box now. I appreciate your time, and I also want to thank everybody for kind of bearing the first time that we're using this webinar application tonight.
More ideas on the what went through, definitely continue to post them in the chat boxes. We're going to move on to Meredith, who's going to talk a bit about rethinking poster sessions, so that we keep. Meredith as well.
Am I good? I think I should be good.
Yep.
All right, sweet. So kind of going off of what Ed said, why do we have this idea of theming the poster sessions? Well, first, participant fatigue, right? We all are wanting to run around and see everything and do everything, and so this fear of missing out where we aren't necessarily getting everything that we can. And if the poster sessions are themed, we're able to create substantive interaction between like-minded presenters, like-minded participants, and create that common space idea that Brian brought up. So we're hopefully, by theming these poster sessions, going to make ease for presenters to get information out there, and then connections to kind of spring up and pop up. Hey, you're at the social justice poster theme. I like that too. Great. Let's do great things. So now, what are these themes, right? That's the next huge question, right? What are the themes that we could possibly have that would work and make people happy, not insult presenters? Why did you think this was this? And what? So the first one is pretty easy. The NCS proposal guidelines break proposals into sub-themes already. And so they're all inquiry-based, and you can read them here. So we've got civic learning and historical and current issues, pedagogy of the social studies, learning in today's classroom, inquiry into social justice and diversity, and inquiry into the future of social studies, so pre-service and higher ed type things. So that's one possibility of how to theme the poster sessions to make them that much more efficient and substantive for our participants and presenters. Second possibility, align them to instructional levels. So we've got middle school, elementary school, high school, and higher ed. So all K-5 teachers are meeting together, sharing ideas about all of the sub-themes, or middle school teachers are meeting together at this poster session, talking about these sub-themes, again, and so on and so forth. Another possibility, align these themes to areas of instructional focus. And so I was really interested in geography last year and teaching geography well to my students, and I was running to all these different geography-based sessions. If they were in one poster session, it would have made my life so much easier, and I could have gotten moved on. So I could have bucketed and grouped based on what the poster trends were in 2014 and 2015, and made this list as a possibility. You know, based on the presentations that we get missions, you know, you can see that way. And the last possibility is crowdsource themes. Ask people, ask presenters, ask participants, what would you want to see as a poster theme? And so kind of the how, but then there's also a little bonus, the perk of having these themed posters, and that's increasing the digital presence of CSS. So each theme session has its own hashtag. So it buckets for participant thinking. That common space goes online, as Brian said. It also boosts the conference Twitter presence, right? The hashtag has NCSS in it. Presenters can opt to have a tweet me sign at their poster, and they can put their own unique teacher handle. So you have that automatic connection to a presenter. Also, there's a lot of times at poster sessions where you've got people writing down and exchanging cards and doing that dance, and it eases the time that it takes. If it's there, people write it down and you move on. Posters can be provided by the tech community, so the poster presenters are kind of grabbing their tweet me signs and filling their stuff in, so they are interacting with the tech table and getting ideas about how to make their poster session a little more tech friendly. And only the larger kind of structural change that would happen would be a table at the entrance and exit of each themed poster session. And so this is kind of going with Kim's less is more with paper, right? Participants can sign up at the table, and what happens is they're emailed or linked in to everything that's presented at the session. So they are getting kind of download, a dump, or a Dropbox or something that has all the information that's at poster session. So they don't have to grab that handout from one poster. They don't have to go and sign up on one table and then sign up on a different table. They get everything from that themed poster session. And hopefully if they're attending the themed poster session, it's something they'd be interested in getting everything for. The table provides contact info cards and QR codes for each poster presenter. And that hopefully, that the goal of that is all to maximize conversation time about the topic of the poster instead of doing that card or info exchange dance. So I'm going to go into chat comments, see if anyone has anything with questions. Dave, I really like that idea too, the whole idea of going back and forth and making, how can we make the poster presentations more techy? And I was thinking, maybe even changing the structure to a featured presenter. So yes, it's a poster session, but because it's a themed poster session, people aren't going to be annoyed if there is a featured poster presenter going and doing kind of a mini session while people can mill about and look at the other posters. It gives the people oomph to their poster, if you will. I'm pretty sure Joe said, what if each member of the tech community? That's really great as well. So I
All right. So let's see. I think people can hear me at this point. So the last topic tonight is something that could be very similar to a recent move that is on the action to present at NCSS DC. This concept is the idea of social studies like TED Talks. We probably wouldn't call it that because it's probably copywritten and we would get sued or something like that. But this idea of that structure and this idea of the very granular, actionable social studies ideas worth spreading, I think, is an interesting thing that has come up. Thinking about why I like TED Talks personally and why I use and watch them. One was that they're only as long as they need to be. They have an 18-minute rule, and many of them are shorter than that. They're high interest in diverse topics. I can look up TED Talks on a lot of different things. I've watched most of the ones on education. They're really easily accessible, which is, Ed was talking about that in terms of connecting to them, even for those who don't attend. So that drums up even more support for the conferences. The TED conferences, of course, are a lot more expensive, tend to be than typical conferences, but there's a lot around them right now. I'm looking really quickly into sort of the structure of those conversations that they have, and there's one TED Talk by one of the directors, and this is the list of things that she said to go into the TED Talks that are chosen and then actually are presented and shared online. Their ideas, they're sort of they're very emotional. People are good storytellers, or they're coached to be. They sort of seem like a secular sermon, is what she says in that TED Talk. And of course, they have a big hook at the beginning that she said that they'll post it online. Actually, they cut off the front of it sometimes so that you sort of start with that big hook. And then it's also a mix of local and global ideas, which I think is really interesting. And I know that NCSS does a really good job of connecting people to the local community into a conference experience. And I think that the ideas presented could also be very local. So the organizers thinking about, from the conference perspective, these are the big things that they brought up. And I looked into a few articles on this. And they really do look to that locality and the community, and they try to build that sense of community around the presentation. They do coach presenters ahead of time, so necessarily telling people this is the way you should, you have to present, but these are the guidelines that lead to very successful short talks like this. They make sure that, I sort of said that already, they start with a hook online, and they said practice makes perfect, of course. So these are sort of different style than a lot of the sessions that we go to. And I think that might be the idea behind the power sessions that CSS sort of is talking about. So that's sort of just the idea and sort of the background behind TED. If you're not that familiar, I'm not an expert. I've never attended a TED but I've like I said, watched a ton of their videos. So the questions really are: Is this something that's of interest to the council? How relatable is it to the power session, which is 30 minutes in length? Is it feasible to pilot in DC? So I'm going to chat now to take a look. Yeah, to see if TED we could collaborate directly with them to say, this is powerful format. So thinking about what are the things particular to the social studies that are powerful. I know the access speak that are in a particular locality. So how do we find those people potentially and bring into the fold of NCSS? I know that we get these awesome keynote speakers, which are sort of a different approach for sort of a different purpose. But trying to find local social studies educators that are doing really fantastic things that could talk about it. Let's see. Okay. So if you have any additional ideas, 3 to 4 good presenters power session. Oh, that's a really good idea. Like that power session is to identify them ahead of time, record their sessions. Could be certainly a way to pilot it, and sort of that kind of couples with what Ed was talking about too in terms of recordings. If we could feature certain power sessions and say, look, these are the ideas. These are like what's really piquing interest in our field and moving things forward. So I think there are a lot of connections to be made here between the post sessions, between the power sessions, connecting them to lounge areas so people can have discussions. One of the big things about TED Talks is they do generate a ton of discussion, and people report that they walk away being very stimulated and excited, and that's why I sort of say it's sort of like a secular sermon, and that like really makes people feel empowered to act. Great. We are about out of time, so I want to thank you for attending this evening on a Tuesday night, and if you're for the tech community, you should feel free to respond to the email we have. You can follow us on Twitter at NCSS, and beyond any additional questions, we'll probably leave the chat open. If you have any additional comments, links, ideas, questions about anything that was presented this evening, our next steps are going to be take some of these ideas and prioritize them. We'll fill out a quick edit survey that we'll send to your emails that will ask you to rank these ideas in terms of which ones we should focus on. I know that Susan Griffin was here earlier, and I know there's a lot of interest by the NCSS board in some of these ideas, and I think that prioritizing them could help some of them move forward more quickly for the conference in DC. So if you could fill that out, that'd be great. And beyond that, I just want to say thanks to the presenters and everybody else. Have a great night.